Hello and welcome along to Championship 365, the Avengers Assemble type collective of Championship content creators. Immediately, you will notice that Ryan Dilks is not doing the intro and I am, but we will explain why. This is a show that's been put together by Planet Sport and Football 365. Getting myself, Benjamin Bloom, Mr. Ben HD. I need to point that way, don't I? And you will already be familiar with Ryan from the Second Tier podcast because we are down his platform. Ryan, you've got about 20 seconds now to save your subscribers that want to turn off, that don't like the sound of my voice. Go.
Well, this is the Avengers Assemble, as you say, of Championship podcasting, Championship YouTube channels. You've got 3 Championship experts. We're just going to have a little nitter-natter about all the things that are cracking off in the Championship at the moment. We've had a fantastic start to the season so far. Why don't you want to hear from the 3 amazing minds that you've got in front of you right now?
I feel he's built our parts. Ben HD, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I couldn't have put it any better myself, to be honest. In terms of YouTube intros and how they go, I'd say smashed it with that one.
So the plan is we've been circling around our platforms here, or our channels, or whatever you want to call them. We will be going onto the Planet Sport Network apparently soon, but often these things take time to iron themselves out. So that may be happening soon, or we may be back over on my channel. This is our 3rd show, so if you want to see the previous shows, one is on my channel. If you scroll up, just type in Championship 365. We were on Ben HD's channel, and we're now going down Ryan's Second Tier Pod YouTube channel as well. Anyway, I think we've done all of the admin. Let's talk some football. Right, first off, Championship is a beautifully placed entity for loan deals, in that, frankly, we get some brilliantly exciting players that our clubs could never afford to sign in a million years. We get them for a short time. They burn brightly. Tammy Abraham, Mitrovic. I'm sure you can think of some better examples of brilliant loanees over time. I wonder which ones you guys have got your eye on this season. Remember, we are still a couple of weeks removed from the end of the window. And we do know that certain Premier League teams will make deals that will allow certain very good players that they already have on their books to go in the next couple of weeks. So we will say that with the caveat. Ben HD, any loanees that you're... you get to go first, so you can tap in the obvious open goal from this past weekend. Any loanees you're excited about seeing this season?
Yeah, and I think I'm going to take that tap in now and discuss a little bit of Tahith Chong.
I'll be
I'm
Wendy,
not going to lie.
you be Pookie, yeah?
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. Birmingham made me look really silly at the weekend with my prediction for that game. Coming into the weekend, Birmingham had only scored 1 goal in the league up until that point. I thought there might be a bit of a tight affair. We'd sort of seen Birmingham be quite regimented and hard to break down so far. But they absolutely blew Luton away. And the real standout player from that game for me was Tahith Chong. I think that he gives them something a little bit different. I think that in that Birmingham team, there are a lot of sort of functional players who work towards a system. You look at your Scott Hogans, your Djukovic's, your Collins, who likes to get forward on that right-hand side as well. But especially in the way that they've used him so far, sort of in that number 10 role, making those bursts forward from midfield, I was seriously impressed with him in that Luton game, especially for, I think it was the assist for the 3rd goal, where he makes that blistering run from his own box into the Luton half. I think it was Mpanzu who took him out in the end, but yeah, unbelievable pace, technique. We sort of saw a few glimpses of that in the Sheffield United game, but the more I see of him, the more that I think the Birmingham fans are going to fall in love with him as the season goes on. And we all know that's dangerous to do with loan players, but Chong has that sort of bit of an edge about him.
Ryan, I was in the empty stadium for Derby versus Norwich last year, and I was quite Norwich versus Derby. I was quite low down, and you could hear everything the players were saying. And it was Buendia's first game back. And the thing I thought watching him at Championship level was it was quite tough, and he was able to receive the ball just at a higher speed than anybody else on the pitch, shield it, pass the ball quicker, right? I don't want to make a direct comparison here, but in terms of skill set, I'm not going to do it. I saw Chong's best bits from that game, and I did see a player who was being buffeted about, receiving the ball, balance, moving it quickly. He looks really good, doesn't he?
Yeah, massively. He looks like a level above anyone else on the pitch. He does suffer a bit from David Luiz syndrome, and I mean that in the way that because he's got big hair, he stands out a lot more on the pitch than everyone else. But having said that, it's a bit different from David Luiz, because he's actually quite good on the ball. And he was just unbelievable. I don't want to compare him to Buendia, because I think he's a bit of a different player to Buendia in the way that he's got more pace than Buendia, and he's more than happy to run at players. But in terms of everything else, he's the whole package as a winger. Birmingham have pulled off an unbelievable move in bringing him in, and I'm very excited to see how he continues throughout the course of the season.
And if not, we'll be sat here looking at this going, God, remember that game Chong played against Luton? He's never played that well since. So, yeah, one or two things are going to happen. Who's caught your eye then, Ryan, in terms of other loanees at other clubs?
Oh, boy. I've gone for Big Osty, Leo Ostergaard at Stoke. Now, I think everyone's starting to come to the realisation that Stoke aren't the Stoke of old, where it was long throws.
Don't do it. They'll mess you
about.
They're
not long throws. They're not long balls anymore. They're a different side. And we saw that with that worldy of a team goal at the weekend, where they took Forest apart like it was adults against kids. And Leo Ostergaard, of course, he had a bit of a role because he started off the move, kind of. But he's been a key part in them transitioning to this football playing side, because he's great with the ball at his feet. He can play it long, he can play it short. He's that kind of modern day centre half, but it's not just with the ball at his feet. In terms of defending, he is an absolute beast. He will head bricks, and he will also, go through any man who comes anywhere near him. And also, he is incredibly intimidating. I don't know if you saw the photo of when he first signed for Stoke, but he looked like a man possessed. And it's getting to the point where if you were on a football pitch and you had the ball at your feet, and you had Leo Ostergaard in front of you, but you also had a bear wearing a Stoke shirt, I'd be looking at that and think, I'll try and dribble past the bear, because at least I'd come out with at least one of my limbs if I tried to do that. Leo Ostergaard, top-class centre-half. He's going to be so important for Stoke this season. And that back three of him, Suter and Wilmot, that's one hell of a back three. One hell of a back three.
Very good indeed. Ben, what do you think about just in terms of career trajectory? Because obviously he's at Brighton, who just seem to stock up good centre-halves, don't they? Loan at Coventry. He kind of got, he sort of mirrored Coventry's season last season with the peak at the end. And obviously there's a big goal at Rotherham, wasn't it? Now he's gone in at Stoke. Do we end up, does he ever get into Brighton with Webster and Dunk, or is this guy going to be available to a championship team next season? Or does he perhaps get promoted with another championship team at some point and find his way into the Premier League after this season?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I did like the look of him last season at Coventry, I must admit. And obviously Brighton is that sort of conveyor belt for centre halves that are coming through at the moment, isn't it? I think he's got it in him. I think he's got quite a ceiling where he will be knocking on the door at some point in that Brighton team. If they are to move one of those next players on and they are to look within the squad, and he does really well this season with Stoke, I don't think he'll be all too far off from really knocking on the door then. But obviously a lot of that is sort of circumstantial with what happens with the players that are at the club at the moment there. But no, yeah, I'm with Brian. A lot of what he says there, I think he's going to have a really good season.
The thing is, as well, the other player I was going to have as a loanee who stood out was Matt Clark, who's another loanee, who's a centre-half at Brighton. They've just got so many, as you say. And now they've brought Shane Duffy back into the team as well. I don't want to talk about the Premier League too much because, but, they've got so many centre-halves who are just absolutely class. It's just not right, really.
I've got a really horrible feeling when Ben just said, and Brighton moved the next one on. I'm thinking about, as an Ipswich fan, I'm thinking about Adam Webster going for 80 million or something. And then you mentioned Matt Clark, who was also at Ipswich. Right, let me just quickly throw one in as well, because I'm kind of interested to see how this guy gets used. So I did Bristol City and Swansea the other night on my channel, and Ethan Laird, I haven't really seen much of him. I had a little look. He's just come in on loans, Manchester United, is it, Laird? To Swansea, and Russ Martin had him last season for half a season at MK. He played right wing back. From my vague research and knowledge of Russ Martin, I know we're going to talk about managers properly in a sec. That's the system that he will play. Elephant in the room is obviously Connor Roberts, who's very good at right wing back and could perhaps be accommodated somewhere else. I like the look of Laird, Ryan. I thought he had good physicality. I thought, you need to be that kind of hybrid as a wing back. Don't you have to be able to do basically 3 roles in a game as a defender and a midfielder and a sort of attacking player now. What do you think about Ethan Laird, familiar to Russ Martin? And ultimately, how does that shake out down that right-hand side with Connor Roberts and Laird?
Well, it's interesting because Connor Roberts was the best right back / right wing back in the Championship last season. I think that's a pretty synonymous opinion, really. But the fact he has brought in Laird, I don't know too much about him. I didn't see much of him for MK Dons last season, but we all know how MK Dons and Russell Martin like to play. And Ethan Laird is clearly someone who Russell Martin thinks is capable of playing in that system. So how he shapes up and what that means for Connor Roberts, only time will tell. I could see a situation where Laird is playing at right wing back and then Connor Roberts possibly plays on the wing. He did do that in the playoff final. Didn't go very well, but he is capable of playing there. Or maybe Laird goes back into a back 3. Who knows? But I'm interested to see how he does. We'll get on to Russell Martin a bit later on because I've got a few qualms with him. But yeah, if he's one that Russell Martin trusts with the system, then I'm not going to blame him for bringing him in.
Can you see that, Ben, sort of the 3-4-3 type strategy where you could tuck Connor Roberts in off Joel Pirro, who might be quite good fun at Swansea this season? Any thoughts on Laird and the Swansea right-hand side?
Yeah, something like that definitely wouldn't surprise me. I second a lot of the thoughts on Connor Roberts last season, but what I would say is Swansea's general track record with bringing in these youngsters on loan genuinely is sort of like hit after hit, really. So if this one was to sort of follow along on a similar trend, then yeah, I'd back him to be decent this season.
I'm just going to attempt to police the YouTube comments. We do acknowledge that Callum Britton was very, very good at right wing back, Barnsley fans as well last season. Just to quell the inevitable replies. Right, let's talk about managers. I can see Ryan's itching to talk about Russ Martin as well. But we will go to Ben HD first. And I want to just talk about new managers. And I'm not classing McAvoy as a new manager or Pearson, even though sort of deals were done fairly soon. But this most recent batch, of which there are 6, so a quarter of the league, Martin, Swansea, Valerian Ismail, not new to the league, but new at West Brom, Marco Silva, Slaviša Jokanovic, Scott Parker, and Marcus Schopp. And Ben, Scott Parker, have you got a grade for him so far? A certain perception of him at Fulham in the Championship, a different perception in the Premier League, and now a different perception at Bournemouth. What's happening here?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, because I was going to go along on a similar sort of path to that, because we'll talk about Scott Parker originally with Fulham in the Championship. It's this very sort of like possession heavy, a little bit slow at times, building up from the back sort of system. And at the time, I wasn't particularly sold on him. I know that that was sort of his first proper like full season in management and stuff like that. But with the squad that Fulham had at the time, it took them a little bit of time to get going. And obviously, they eventually won promotion through the playoffs. In the Premier League, he did start to win me round a little bit more. I know they were obviously eventually relegated in the end, but they did have that stint, sort of, I think, around about March time, didn't they, when it really looked like things were clicking for them. Sort of all the loanees were settling in. And it looks like they may have gone ahead and done that. They just seem to run out of steam towards the end of the season. And then coming into Bournemouth this season, I think a lot of us were sort of expecting that sort of similar play style to year one Fulham in the Championship. But we've got a bit of a variation of that so far. It seems like there has been sort of a little bit more tempo to the play so far. And what I've been impressed with really is there's not really been all too much of a hangover from Arnaud Danjuma leaving. You know, a lot of other teams, if you lose sort of like your star from last season, it'll take a bit of an adaptation period to get over that. But Jaden Anthony, I've been really impressed with so far. David Brooks is someone who I think should get better this season after it didn't really click for him last time and stuff like that. Solanke's been in the goals as well. It's also a very young squad. When we consider the players that have been missing from that team so far that are yet to come back in, I think that sort of in the second half against Blackpool, maybe a bit of that sort of naivety and inexperience told a little bit, you know, with some more, you know, just brought in Cahill, haven't they? Having that bit more sort of game management at the back may have seen them over the line in that sense. But no, overall, I've been quite pleasantly surprised by Parker so far at Bournemouth. And I think that there will be more to come as the season goes on.
Brilliant. Ryan, let me tell you my position. You can tell me whether it's reasonable or not. So despite having Mitrovic and a year one parachute payment, my very binary position is if you get promoted, you've done a good job. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of how I fell down on Parker last time. It was either he gets them promoted or he doesn't get them promoted. So I'm still entirely on the fence. And we're all Championship guys. I don't know whether I parlay a Premier League relegation into how good a Championship manager that makes you. So I'm kind of still on the fence. If he gets Bournemouth up, I'll be really sold.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. He's a bit of a weird case because I think he's a better Premier League manager than he is Championship manager.
There's players like that as well.
Yeah, I don't know how that makes sense, but that's the only way I can really describe it, because I will be honest, I haven't been as impressed with him at Bournemouth so far. I think they aren't causing as much of an attacking threat as I would have expected, considering the talent they've got at their disposal. Sure, they've lost Danjuma, but Jaden Anthony's come in and has been fantastic. I think you've got to give Parker credit there for playing these young lads like Anthony, Zamora at the back as well. All been fantastic so far. Travers as well at the back, in goal. So he's done well with the young players. It's just with these players that he's got at his disposal, I was expecting a bit better, but he has got to implement a new system. Bournemouth last season were just lacking a good manager. They had Woodgate and Tyndall, who didn't really impress me at all, considering the talent they had there. Now they've got a manager who has got experience and he's quite good at this level because he has got one promotion under his belt. But I'm still reserving judgment for now.
I think I'm in the same boat there. We'll keep an eye on Mr. Parker and Bournemouth. Russ Martin then, Ryan. So this I keep referring to it as the ultra possession style. Although I'm going to try and apologise for him because I think you're not convinced yet. He did break some of my preconceptions in the Bristol City game. There did seem an intent at times to play the switch of play and play the channel to Pirro a few times. So there were occasions where I was sat there going, what's the pattern here? Where is the ball supposed to be being progressed to? But that was broken up with a few bits of more direct passing and more varied passing. What's your take on Russ Martin and the ultra possession style coming into the Championship?
I'd say it's still early days. And when you've got to, make a drastic change in style of play, like Russ Martin's having to do from the Steve Cooper era, it's a big change in style. So that is going to take time. And that's the reason I'm not completely throwing everything out the boat just yet with Russ Martin. I think they've been very poor defensively so far. They, even in the Bristol City game at the weekend, on Friday, they gave away some big chances. And that's been quite a common theme with Russ Martin and Swansea so far this season. But it's going to take time because when they have the ball, they're playing quite wide, aren't they? So when they do lose possession, they're a bit exposed at the back, especially when teams are willing to directly...
The wing-backs are like Ishmael position wing-backs, aren't they? And the ball's not going forward quickly to them like Ishmael does.
Exactly. So when they do lose the ball, they're going to be exposed. And it's going to take a bit of time for the players to get used to what to do when they do turn over the ball. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt for now, but things do need to change quickly. Otherwise, this could be quite a miserable season for Swansea.
I think there might be some more toing and froing in the window, Ben, as well. There's still the Matt Grimes thing that seems to have gone away for a bit and rumbling. Do you think Swansea fans would accept a quote transitional season this year under Martin?
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing, really. And I think that, a few more players coming into this side can, completely change their fortunes for this season. I had a bit of a look into their sort of underlying numbers so far this season. And so far this season, they have averaged the fewest amounts of shots per 90 in the whole of the Championship. I think it's only 8 shots per 90 so far, which is considerably the lowest at this point in time. So, yeah, I do think that, them using the loan market in these next couple of weeks could be quite crucial for their season. But I think it was sort of accepted, really, that the fans, though Cooper Ball did work so effectively, they were looking for a little bit of a shift this season in play. So I think that most Swansea fans will sort of take a transitional season, as it were.
Agreed. Right, let's do some old school grades, and then we'll try and stick the 6 new managers. We'll rank them from worst to best so far. So look, no pluses or minuses, just A, B, C, or D. Do we need to go for it? We might need to go for an E at Bramall Lane. I'll let you have an E at some point. So Ryan, can you give me a grade for West Brom's Valérien Ismaël?
A, easily.
Yeah, Ben?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Really impressed so far. I've been surprised actually by how quickly these West Brom players have taken to this new system. But yeah, A so far. Create a bucket load of chances, loads of fun to watch.
I mean, like 25 shots a game, aren't they?
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, A without a doubt.
Okay, I'll go along with an A on that one, just for implementing stuff so quickly but it's simple, isn't it? It's not. You just mentioned Parker and Martin, where it's complicated and there's lots of patterns to learn, and you might not have been doing it before, but it's simple with Ismaël, and damn effective from the last 2 seasons, isn't it? Ryan, what grade are you giving Fulham's top of the league, Marco Silva here?
They've got an unbelievably good squad, haven't they?
Yeah, fantastic.
So
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure whether I should caveat it with that, but I think you can only give them an A, really, can't you? I think with the players that he's got, to be fair to Silva, he's played a ballsy move by playing Carvalho, just 18 years old, in every game so far this season. Oh, he's so good. How is this lad 18? When I was 18, I was playing Modern Warfare 2 in my room all day. It's ridiculous how this lad is just tearing up the Championship so far. He's been one of the standout players so far, but nonetheless, playing him when you've got all this talent available to you is a ballsy move. So I'll give him credit for that. But when you've got this much talent available to you, I'll give him an A, just to be nice.
Agreed. Ben?
Yeah, I think I'm just about sort of in the A category for this one. Like Ryan says, it's a very good squad there. And I'd also say that I think that they've had it, and this is, probably a testament to them really, but they've had it sort of fairly easy in most of their matches so far. I know that Borough was a bit of a test on the opening day and stuff like that, but I'm very interested to see, and we'll probably get to it later on, how their game against Stoke next up is going to go, because I think that will be the first sort of real test of the season with how well they've started as well.
Interesting. I'll go in on Jokanovic, and we have to caveat all of this by saying we've loved covering Sheffield United, and Chris Wilder was amazing, and it was a brilliant story. No parachute payment, Sheffield boy, League One, Championship, second place, 9th in the Premier League. But I think sometimes there's conversations and mitigating factors, but sometimes the results override those. And, we can talk about gelling and where it's going and losing mentality and all of that stuff, transfer window and Berger and whoever else might still go out. But the results are just hopeless. And even if I do think he's going to come round, I have to give him a D because the results are so poor, right?
You're giving him a D. You're not giving him an E.
I'm going to give him a D because he's got a point. All
right, fair enough. To be fair, against Huddersfield at the weekend, they probably should have won. They missed so many good chances that it was a bit of a crime that they didn't get at least another point from that game. The frustrating thing with Jokanovic is he's gone with this formation that I'm not really sure what he's trying to do, where he's seemingly playing Osborne and Fleck on the wings, and that doesn't scream pace, does it? Those two, you've got all this, attacking quality in the team, but if you've just got no service from out wide, then what's the point? So that's what I'd label. That's what I'd aim at Jokanovic with. But at the same time, I don't think the players have covered themselves in glory. You've got £50 million worth of strikers up there. And so far, Billy Sharp, 87-year-old Billy Sharp, is the only one who's managed to get on the score sheet so far. So I don't think Jokanovic is completely to blame. But at the same time, I don't think he's helping things either.
Are you with us on a D for Jokanovic? Did we get a D out of you in the end, Ryan? I think we did, didn't we?
No, I'm going E.
He's gone full in on the E. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, sort of between the two of you on this one, really, because I think that most of us, to be honest, probably said at the start of the season that this was going to be a little bit of a slow burner for Sheffield United. And that's all sort of well and good saying at the start of the season. But once the grind of the Championship does start and the results aren't picking up yet, then things get a little bit twitchy. If they do go into this first international break, having not won any of their matches, and they're sat on 1 point in the relegation zone, people are looking a little bit nervous there at the moment. But there is, method to the madness that you'd think that eventually things will click there. But yeah, the early signs haven't exactly been all too promising, especially when you do compare them to the other two relegated clubs.
100%, yeah. Who are first and second. Yeah. First, second, 23rd.
Bit of a contrast, isn't it?
But we all saw Fulham 2016-17 and Fulham 2017-18.
That's the thing, yeah.
Look like if the season went 10 more games, they'd have been top in both of those seasons, probably, weren't they? But there you go.
Just following on from what Ben was saying. Sorry to interrupt, Ben. He is right. Things will get better at Sheffield United, and I'm confident things will get better. Other clubs in the league, not going to name any names, Forest. There are signs that things will get better at Sheffield United because they are creating chances. It's just about things falling their way, and it probably will happen eventually.
100%. Right, I'm going to try and summarise here to wrap this up. So, if we were trying to rank the 6 managers. Apologies, Slavisa, you big intimidating man, but you're going to be 6th and bottom. I think we're going to have Ismail first and Silva second. And then I think Shop we're going to have 4th. No, I don't think we are. Right, I need your help with this then.
It's a big drop between the top two, isn't it?
Yeah, I hadn't quite processed that drop right. So we've got Russ Martin, we've got Scott Parker and Marcus Shop. Let me tell you what I think, and then you tell me whether you agree. So I'd have Parker, then I'd have Shop, and then I'd have Martin. So I think the 6 is Ismail, Silva, Parker, Shop, Martin, Jokanovic. Have we got it?
I think you're pretty much spot on.
Ben?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. Those 3, I think, in the middle, the Parker, Shop, and the Martin are sort of the ones you could sort of interchange a little bit. But yeah, that 3 I'm happy with.
And we, of course, acknowledge the expectation difference between the 4 managers there at Parachute teams and, Russ Martin replacing Steve Cooper, who had overperformed by however much is up to you. But 4th is going to be hard for Swansea. And everyone agrees Barnsley ridiculously overperformed brilliantly last season. There we go. I think if you followed that, we've just managed to level out those 6 new managers. Right. Here comes the bad news. It's the disaster class here. And we have 2 teams, 2 very big clubs. And look, we've talked a bit about Sheffield United now. So maybe, sorry, Forest fans, we'll have to focus in on Nottingham Forest here. But 24th and 23rd in the league are now, whether you like this theory or not, is fine, but are 2 clubs that really shouldn't be 24th and 23rd, given size and expectation. Okay, plenty of bigger clubs down in, or big clubs rather, down in League One. Have I done enough caveats there not to upset the Forest fans? I think I have, haven't I? But Forest stink at the moment. They've got 0 points. They're bottom of the table. And the fixtures, Coventry, Bournemouth, okay, as a parachute team, Blackburn at home, Stoke, okay, Stoke have started well. It's not like they have played Fulham, West Brom, Bournemouth, and whoever else is playing well. So the fixtures haven't been that tough. There's been far less chaos in terms of there's not 15 players gone out and 15 players gone in. And we all think Chris Hughton's this very steady, very sensible, calm, always improves bit by bit, does he, manager, who you would think, right, he'll sort Forest out. That he'll do it, it'll be fine. And they're exactly where they were last season under Lamouchi. So to make this a bit more than us just piling in on poor old Forest, because we accept there's been a lot of years of Championship football. And as an Ipswich fan, I understand just mediocre, staying in the Championship, not really doing anything for ages. But Ryan, what is going wrong, and what's a potential fix?
Well, the simple answer to both questions is I don't have a clue. The thing is with Forest, you were just mentioning the clubs they've been playing. If they were in those games and the results just hadn't gone their way, and on a different day it could have been a different result, that'd be fine. But they've been awful. The Stoke game at the weekend was one of the worst team performances I've seen in the Championship in quite some time. And Stoke didn't even have to get out of second gear, didn't even have to get out of fourth gear, really. Am I getting my gears the wrong way around here? You know what I mean? They didn't have to really do much at all. How many
gears have Fulham got, Ryan? 8?
That's a lot of gears, yeah.
Yeah,
Stoke were good, not amazing. Forest were abysmal. It was a dumpster fire of a performance, really. And I don't know how things get better, really. It seems pretty inevitable to me that Chris Hughton will get sacked in the near future, possibly after the Derby Forest game, because we've had that in the past, haven't we, where
it's an international break, Ryan, on September 4th, 5th as well.
Exactly. So that's coming up after this weekend, and that's usually a good time for clubs to have a change of manager if they're going to do it. So it won't surprise me if it happened then. If he does get sacked and then they bring in someone else, will it get better? I'm honestly not sure it will, because something just seems wrong at Forest. I don't know what it is. Only the people at the club will be able to tell you what it is. And whoever they bring in has got one hell of a job on their hands. You've got Chris Hughton, who's one of the best managers the Championship has ever seen. If he's not getting a tune out of this Forest side, then who the hell is? So who they bring in, if they do sack Hughton, is going to be a mystery to me. And I'm just not sure anything's going to get better, because Forest are in a right state at the moment.
When Ryan is talking there, Ben, well, I'm thinking several things, because I'm thinking, can they attract or afford a Chris Wilder? I know his stock was ridiculously high, but got quite badly damaged with that winless run. And then there's the question: was Chris Wilder, this lightning in a bottle guy at Sheffield United, never to produce that again? We don't know, but time will tell. What about is this a culture thing between players and attitude and whatnot? And like Ryan suggests, that you could put Bobby Robson in there and, he couldn't get a tune out of them.
Yeah, it's a really funny one, because, a lot of Forest problems from last season came from sort of their attacking play in the final third. I think they averaged less than a goal a game in that season. And so far, it doesn't look like there's been much work done to sort of rectify that. I always worry about a team who doesn't have a system that's going to create, have a general way of creating chances. When we look at Forest, it's sort of all about small moments of individual brilliance. You look at the Coventry goal.
Can I chime in there really quickly? I'm fascinated you said that, because do you remember under Lamouchi, it was Joe Lolly banging one in,
Yeah.
or Lewis Grabban having not many chances and scoring one of them. So perhaps that's actually that's been reaping what it's sowed for longer than we think. Perhaps that's a great point.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing with Forest at the moment. Like, you look at the Goldie Scully against Coventry, it was a great run by Brennan Johnson to pull it across for Lyle Taylor. You know, maybe Zinkernagel can come up with something out of nothing or something like that. But I mean, the perfect example was the Stoke game where they couldn't get a foot on the ball in the final third, and ultimately, I don't think they had a shot in that game until about the 75th minute or something like that. So yeah, it's worrying times for Forest at the moment, and you do look at that international break and think, if that Derby game doesn't go to plan, you worry for Houghton then.
Another thing, going back to what you were saying, Ryan, is you have this situation at clubs sometimes where there's a job, it's not going very well. They sack the manager, the job's open, and you go, right, who would be a good manager to get into a championship club that needs sorting out? And you come up with Chris Hughton, who's already there and not doing the job very well. It's very confusing, this.
That's what I mean. Who's going to get a better? Who would you want to have in that job more than Chris Hughton? It doesn't make any sense to me. And you were talking about Chris Wilder. Why would Chris Wilder want to go to Forest at the moment? Why would any good championship manager or top level championship manager on the edge of the Premier League?
It's the big name and the club size that can sometimes pull somebody in, isn't it?
Well, that's it. But I just can't think of anyone who would, in their right mind, take that job at the moment, just because it is going so wrong. And you've got the fan base there, you've got the club size there, you've got the facilities there, you've got the players there. Forest fans are having a go at me for saying the players aren't actually that good, but it's a load of nonsense. You've got a playoff chasing side there, but you've got the manager as well. So why the hell isn't it going it right? It's a complete mystery to me, and I just don't think it's going to get better anytime soon, no matter who they bring in.
Well, we hope for you Forest out there, you Forest fans, some wins, some points soon, but we can elaborate a little bit more on that right now. Let's have a look at our head-to-heads, and we've been promising this for a few weeks and not delivered, frankly, but the Football 365 Predictor League is nearly ready, I think. If you follow the Championship 365 page, we will tweet that out, and you can get involved on that. And all of the people that like to, every time I get a prediction wrong, mock me for it, have a go yourself and see how you get on with Championship predictions. Because if you're good at it, you're better than me, put it that way. Derby Forest then, Ben. And there's almost a sense of Derby are sort of punching their weight now, and they've got this trim squad that perhaps if nobody gets injured, they're going to finish way above. Let's be honest, we all had them on about -8 points by now because we thought there'd be an FFP thing, and they're fine if they can keep those players fit. Whilst Forest are struggling, Derby could really put the boot in to Forest in this one. How do you see it going, Ben?
Yeah, this game's come at such an interesting point of the season, hasn't it? Derby have been an interesting one so far, because what I've sort of been saying on my channel is Rooney seems to have a group of players there with a bit of experience that for these first few months of the season, I could definitely see them picking up some results. I think that their sort of tough run may come over that sort of Christmas period where a couple of injuries may accumulate in the squad depth. Sort of comes into it a little bit, but this one's going to be such a nervy game for Forest here with the current situation they find themselves in. I don't think that Chris Hughton is particularly the sort of manager that's going to, just look to throw the kitchen sink at them and just go for it. I think this is going to be quite a close and cagey one, and I think that may end up suiting Derby, to be honest with you. And those two at the back that Derby have got at the moment in Davis and Jagielka seem to have a bit of
thinking you'll miss them
building. Exactly, yeah. The fastest two in the championship, those two. So, yeah, it's come at such an interesting time. I think that one goal either way could definitely swing this one.
He's not saying which way, though. Ryan?
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because if you said to Derby fans, you got Forest 5 games into the season, they'd have been like, oh, for God's sake, really? And now it's completely parallel, isn't it? So, Yeah, I'm looking at this and thinking Derby will definitely be fancying their chances, but as we all know, form goes out the window in a Derby game.
There it is.
The thing I will say with Derby is, of course, their squad is unbearably thin. And I was at the Derby Middlesbrough game at the weekend, and Joswiak and Louis Sibley, who are playing in this kind of attacking midfield role, I was looking at them and thinking they need to come off because they have not played well at all. So I had a look at the Derby bench.
Yeah, right.
There's no one to bring on.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. And as the season goes on, as Ben was just alluding to, and injuries start happening, because they will happen, you don't have teams who don't have injuries. That is going to be a big, big problem when they're starting to have to bring in young lads from the academy, and they're going to have to play, 10 games in a row or something like that. So that's going to be an issue. But for now, Derby fans can make the most of what's going on. It's very positive at Pride Park for once, considering expectations are low this season. So they'll be heading into this, full of beans and thinking to themselves, yeah, we can get our first win against Forest in quite some time.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Another derby where form apparently goes out the window is Cardiff versus Bristol City. And let's be honest, we're having a lot of fun with Cardiff at the moment, and Aidan Flint and Sean Morrison and Marlon Pack and Ryan Giles. I think we know what the threat is in this game. Bristol City, I was all gung-ho. Have they turned the corner when they went and beat Reading, Ryan? But then they lose the next game. At home. I make Cardiff, I don't want to say hot favourites. I make Cardiff favourites in this one, with it being over in Wales.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Cardiff have got quite a good record against Bristol City as well in this game. But as we say, form goes out the window. See how many times I can peddle out that cliche. What I will say about Bristol City is what I was alluding to earlier with the Swansea game. Bristol City missed so many chances, and that is becoming a bit of an issue so far this season, that they are very wasteful up top because they haven't got a striker who looks like they're going to get double digits, especially with Nahki Wells seemingly reportedly on his way out. So that's a big worry for them.
Especially against Mick, Morrison, Flint and Nelson, yeah?
You're not going to get many chances against that back three, who are looking like the most solid back three in the division right now. So it's a big old ask for Nigel Pearson to get something from this game. I feel like his style of play will suit Mick McCarthy in Cardiff as well. So, yeah, I definitely have Cardiff down as favourites for this game.
Do you agree, Ben?
Yeah, I think so. The only sort of positive slant I could put on Bristol City is the problem I had with them last season was that they literally just wouldn't create a lot of chances. This season, they seem to be getting in a few more positions. It's just that they seem to be missing the majority of those chances at the moment. But yeah, Cardiff, Carnage coming into the box with those long balls, I think maybe too tough to deal with for this one.
5-year contract for Alex Scott as well, who I think we'd all bracket in with Isaiah Jones and Jaden Anthony, maybe not quite Fabio Carvalho, but another good youngster coming through in the Championship who I'm eager to watch. Fulham versus Stoke, where form stays in the window.
Yep, absolutely.
It's not going out there, is it? Fulham versus Stoke, who are I just not make any comments on Stoke because I'll just be mugged off again. So is it at Fulham? Sorry, let me just double check here where the game is, because that does matter. It is at the Cottage. Fulham versus Stoke, which, Ryan, if Stoke were to get something, would kind of be an example of a team perhaps starting the season well and momentum in that moment, like you were mentioning with Forest and Derby, momentum being able to grab something. Can they stop? I'm sure, Wilson done 3 games now? Yeah, there's League Cup as well, isn't there? So Wilson will probably be back. Carvalho's playing brilliantly. Mitrovic can seemingly fall over and have the ball kicked against him and score in this division as well. So can those 3 centre-backs you were bigging up earlier stop that Fulham attack?
I think they can. We saw in the Middlesbrough game on the first day of the season that Fulham can be stopped. Of course, they did score, but it wasn't a completely one-sided game. So this is just a real test of how good a side Stoke are, because they've been probably the most impressive side, apart from obviously West Brom and Fulham so far. they're the only team who are keeping pace with them at the moment. And if they get a result here, then I'm going to be even more excited about Stoke than I already am. But yeah, I'd still make Fulham favourites for this game, considering the talent and resources they've got at their disposal. But I'd love to see Stoke prove me wrong.
I don't even think Ryan's on the platform of the Michael O'Neill Express, Ben. I think he's hanging out the back, swinging a Stoke scarf, isn't he? Of the Michael O'Neill Express as it leaves the station. What are you saying, Ben?
Yeah, I would definitely make Fulham, slight favourites for this one. But like I was mentioning before, I do think this will be maybe the sternest test that Fulham have had so far. And like we were sort of mentioning before, I think they've had it fairly easy in a lot of the matches they've had. But Stoke, with the way they've started this season and the sort of clash of styles in this one, I think will be a really interesting one. I think I would just be ever so slightly edging to Fulham, but I wouldn't be surprised if Stoke grab something there.
On a level of 1 to 10, how depressed will you both be if Fulham win 4-0 and we're projecting another two U1 parachute teams to score 95
points? They may as well
points
just end it.
Yeah. Well, if Fulham do just absolutely smash Stoke into oblivion, then I'll be looking at this season thinking West Brom and Fulham may as well walk off to the Premier League now. Just go ahead, lads. Because I would struggle to see who else is going to catch up at this point.
Yeah, I'm trying to cast my memory back. Leeds and West Brom were miles clear in December, but ultimately they did still finish first and second, didn't they? So, yeah. There you go. Right, thank you everybody for joining us. This has been Championship 365. Once again, a collaboration between myself, Benjamin Bloom. You can check out my stuff on the Benjamin Bloom football channel, and the first show of this collaboration is on there. We may be on the Planet Sport Network next week, or we may be back on my channel. We'd love to see you wherever it is indeed we end up. And I will plug one more time, football365.com and the new Championship Predictor League, which should be coming soon. You're already listening or viewing the second tier channel here. But Ryan, give your brilliant podcast a bit of a plug.
The podcast available Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to your podcast now. Give it a listen. We review the Championship every weekend and give a preview every Thursday, or review the midweek games if there are midweek games. And then YouTube as well. We're starting to do a few more bits on here as well. I've just done a video where I DM'd random Championship footballers, and that was very entertaining. So give that a watch, and we'll keep going for the rest of time.
And I said it last week, check out their Twitter as well, which never fails to amuse me. At Second Tier, yeah?
Yeah, at Second Tier Pod.
And the legend, Ben HD, the father of Championship YouTubing, despite the fact I'm probably double his age, but there you go. Luke. Give us a plug for your channel, Luke. Luke Ben HD Walker.
Yeah, over on YouTube, Ben HD for everything Championship, really. That's where you can find me doing all the stuff over on there.
Sensational. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Please get your views in the comments. Remember, other opinions are okay, and it doesn't cost anything to be civil and lovely, especially when it concerns anything I may or may not have said. We're going to be back next week. We don't know exactly when, but we will be. So let us know your feedback, and we'll see you very soon. Say goodbye, Ryan.
Bye.
Ben, say goodbye, but slightly higher pitch than Ryan.
Bye.